know, the rate board sets rates for the water department. I'll give you, my name is Nancy Brockway. I'm the hearing officer hired by the board to conduct hearings. With me are three members of the board, the chair, Sonny Popowski, Ms. Rashia Johnson, or is there a T? Johnson, and Tony Ewing. What we do at these hearings is we let the department give a short introduction to why it thinks it needs a rate increase. There is a representative here of the public, the consumer advocate, and he will come up and give a short discussion of what the consumer advocate is thinking are ways that that could be pulled back, be less, whatever. And then we're going to have comment from the public. What I'm going to do is I have these sign-in sheets. We've only got 3 people who've signed up, so we're going to ask, I think first if there are any elected or appointed officials who would like to speak, and then I'm just going to go through the list in order. Once I've gone through the list of people who said yes, then I'm going to open it up and ask if there's anybody who now would like to speak. Where are people going to speak? Actually, I should have. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean that, ma'am.
That mic, there's a table they can take.
Yep, they should be able to come right there to those.
Okay. So if you will, if you can come to the table, and also I'm going to remind everybody several times to please state your name and spell it. Actually, the handwriting today is very good, but we've had problems. Okay, well, without further ado, the commissioner of the Water Department is going to introduce the Water Department's presentation.
So, good morning. I'm good to see the folks that did come out today. Good to have you. Water Department works very hard to make sure that our rates are as affordable as possible, and it's good to see. So good morning. It's great to see everybody that's come out to learn about why we need a rate increase. And I want to make sure that folks are aware that on the side here, we do have staff ready, willing, and able to address any issues you may have, whether they be billing or otherwise. We always look for opportunities to, when we're with the public, out with the public, to share information and also assist in any way we can. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Joanne Dom, our Manager of Public Affairs, for her brief presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry, it sounds really loud. Thank you for being here this morning, and good morning, Councilwoman. Thank you for being here, representing City Council. What I'm going to be doing is just providing a brief overview of the Water Department's services, and then talk about the reasons for the proposed rate increase. So the Water Department is a city department. It's also a public utility. We are a not-for-profit utility. That means that when we need to increase rates, the money that we're looking to recover goes 100% towards our operating and maintenance costs. We take a lot of pride in ensuring that our services meet the needs of our customers, and so our goal is always to make sure that we cover the rates that we need to maintain a really good operating system. The public's health is our top priority, and we have a lot of pride in our unblemished record of providing really safe and healthy drinking water. We are able to do that because we have a really robust water infrastructure system, which includes 3 water treatment plants and over 3,000 miles of mains. And the people who are behind these facilities, who operate them 24/7, in order to ensure that we always meet our goals of top quality customer service. Our rivers are our drinking water sources, so we have a commitment to ensuring that our wastewater treatment facilities clean and treat the water and return it back to the Delaware River cleaner than the quality that it was when it was withdrawn from the river for drinking water purposes. We're able to do that again because we do have a really robust system, and our 3 wastewater treatment plants are award-winning because they always have met top quality effluent, which means how well they clean the water, permit obligations. Our stormwater infrastructure. So the stormwater management component is really the most challenging for the Philadelphia Water Department, but other utilities around the country who are responsible for managing stormwater. That's because stormwater is the major pollutant to our waterways. Our capital budget is approximately 25% to include the stormwater component. That's the management and the programs that we have behind that. You may have heard of our Green City Clean Waters program. That's one of our more popular programs, the one that the public recognizes, where we are looking to use green stormwater infrastructure to capture the first 1.5 inches of rainwater, to provide additional capacity in our robust sewer system that lies beneath the street that people don't get to see. It's a 25-year program, but it can be an expensive program, and a program we're always looking to reduce the cost of that. But again, the stormwater is one of the greatest challenges across the country and for the water department, but we're looking to proceed in a way that is providing additional amenities to the community through this green approach. So what do you see in your monthly bill? So we talked about the water department being an integrated department. We provide water, sewer, stormwater services, and so when you get a monthly bill, our hope is people take a look at that bill so you see what you're paying for. The water component is for that water treatment and distribution. The wastewater component is for the sewer collection and for the treatment of that wastewater. The stormwater management component, we have residential fees, which pay for a flat fee based on the medium size of a property, and then there's the commercial, the non-residential fee, which is based on the size of the property and how impervious your property is, again, related to the cost of service, what we are treating because your property is shedding that amount of water. And then the service charge, which includes for the billing and collections component. So why you're all here. So why do we need a rate increase? So essentially we have a number of drivers to that. We have our pipes and plants, and we like to sort of point to the most recent challenging winter we had, where we had over 600 water main breaks between December and February due to the extreme cold weather. It was not just the cold weather, but we have aging mains and we have vulnerable systems. And one of the goals is to ensure that we're able to sort of step up our water main replacement rate. So over the next 5 years, we're looking to do that from 28 miles a year to 40 miles a year, just to ensure that we have safe and reliable service. We are also looking to increase our sewer replacement rate by a few miles a year. In addition, expanding our wastewater treatment facilities so they can manage more stormwater as we collect that and bring it to the plant, and also upgrade our water treatment plants because we want to make sure we're always meeting safe drinking water air quality goals. As any good business or utility, we're people by people. I didn't want to say man by people, but we're man by people. The people keep our systems operating. They do the emergency repairs. They operate our plants 24/7. They're monitoring our water quality. But with people, there's cost, there's pensions, there's benefits, there's salaries. Reduced consumption. So we see this trend, certainly across the nation. Over the last 10 years, water conservation devices have become really popular in people's homes. People are using less water, but we have the same infrastructure in place to provide that water. So when we see the consumption goes down, that means that unit cost of water will increase. Over the past 4 years, we have seen in Philadelphia about 1.75% decrease in water consumption. And for this proposed rate case, that equates to about $11 million in potentially lost revenue. And lastly, the environmental regulations, and that's a component of our Green City Clean Waters program and other programs we have in place to manage stormwater and to treat drinking water. That is a rising cost. It's an obligation. We're required to do that by the state and by the EPA. We certainly recognize and want to do these things, but our goal is always to balance affordability with our environmental obligations. So the rate board, Nancy introduced the rate board. The rate board was established by city charter in 2012. City Council then passed an ordinance. The rate board has heard one proposed rate case to date. This is the second one. The rate board plays a really important role, as the public does. They evaluate our financial plans. They evaluate the information that we provide to document why we need this proposed rate. They also take a look and evaluate all the public comments and the work that the Community Legal Services, who's the public advocate, does on the public's behalf. The process itself, so we announced the intent to increase rates in March. We're in the public comment period through April and May. Decision from the rate board should come in July, and then if all goes as planned, we'd see a rate increase, the first phase of that, September 1st of 2018. But we always like to emphasize that we, the Water Department, really do want to hear from the public. It's really important that we know what our customers are thinking about. When they testify at rate cases, when they call us, when you fill out surveys, we get good information and we understand where we need to do better and what programs and services we need to provide. As a result of the last rate case and working with Community Legal Services and Councilwoman Keone Sanchez, we did institute a new customer assistance program called our Tiered Assistance Program, or TAP. And I'll talk about that in the next slide. We also have recently merged our Water Department and Water Revenue Bureau call center. We have heard from customers for many years that they had difficulties getting through on the phones and that they were being tired of being transferred because they had a billing call and they went to the wrong department. We have physically merged, and we are in the process of cross-training so that we are aiming for what we call first call resolution. Somebody calls, they get a representative who can give them the information they provide and provide that service. We're always looking to improve language access. Our call centers have always had the ability to do translations by tapping in to another service, but we have expanded that ability to our field service personnel, our construction staff, and we are always looking to provide our information, what we post on the website, publications, documents in Spanish, and we provide other languages as requested. And lead service lines. So at the last rate case, we heard a lot of concern about lead coming from home plumbing that can get into drinking water. We've instituted a program where we enable people to get free lead service line replacements during a water main replacement on the street. We'll also provide a zero interest loan for those people who are not going through a water main replacement. And the last piece, tenant occupant customer applications. We've been working with Community Legal Services to make that process easier. We're also taking it a next step to ensure that tenants who become water customers can also take advantage of our TAP program. So our Tiered Assistance Program, we are really excited about this program. We think it meets a lot of the needs of our low-income customers. The program is really targeted at customers who are between 0 and 150% of the federal poverty line. This program provides a customer with a monthly water bill that is based on their income, what they can afford, versus based on their usage. So they have a monthly bill that does not change. For customers who are between 0 and 50% of the FPL, they can be getting a bill as low as $12 a month. A proposed rate increase will not impact customers who are in the TAP program. Again, they stay on that bill, that monthly bill that they can afford. Application process is, we hope that it's fairly easier. We're trying to make sure that we get the information out better to the public. We can mail an application, people can go online and fill it out online or download it, or they can call and ask for a copy. It's a one-stop shop, so we heard concerns about what happened to the senior citizen discount. We have the one application for senior citizen discount, hardship, low income. So we say one-stop shop. We want people to fill out the application. We determine which program is the best for them. And you do not need to be delinquent, so that's the other thing. In past programs, you had to be already owing us some money. With this program, you do not. So it looks to help customers before they get to that point. So what would a typical bill look like if the Water Department's proposed rate increase went into place? So today, customers are paying approximately $66.50 on their monthly bill. That's for a typical customer who's using 500 cubic feet per month, which is about 3,700 gallons per month. The proposed increase would be a 3-year phase-in. We're looking to recover $116 million over the next 3 years. That phase-in would be a 1% increase this coming September. September of 2019, we see a 5% increase, and the following September, we see a 4.5% increase. When the phase-in is completed, that would equate to about a $7 increase on that customer's monthly bill. So one of our goals is also to make sure that customers have a really good opportunity to see what we do, to get behind the scenes and understand our services. We recently had an open house at our Southeast Wastewater Treatment Plant last Saturday. This Saturday we have one at our Baxter Water Treatment Plant. Still time to sign up. If you're interested in taking a tour, it really gives you a good sense of what is involved with the water treatment process and how complicated the process is. But you always also get to meet a lot of department employees from other units, and you really get a sense of the dedication and passion that people have for the work that they are doing. and the public's role. So for the rate process, extremely important that people participate, that we hear from the public. There's a lot of ways to do that. People who are testifying today, you can send a letter to the rate board, you can email the rate board. But again, the rate board and the water department does want to hear from people because that's the only way we learn your perspective on how well we are doing. And hopefully as you came in, you took a survey. So we have instituted surveys over the last 3 years on a number of issues, looking at how well we're doing on our call center, what our construction impacts are, what do you think of our water quality. We want to hear from customers, so we're asking that people take those surveys and drop them off at the table, and we'll use that as a means to continually improve our programs to make sure we're providing the best quality service. And I think I am handing this off to Rob.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. Could I just get by a show of hands, how many people in the audience plan to come up here and participate in public input? Okay, so we got a small group, but hopefully we'll see some more folks come in. Thanks for being here to bring your attention to this important case. My name is Robert Ballinger. I'm an attorney at Community Legal Services, and we're providing service here as the public advocate representing the interests of approximately 500,000 residential and small commercial customers in this case. We've prepared a flyer, and it looks like this, that lists the location of this hearing as well as the future hearings, and it lists some of the major policy issues in this case. We have copies of that available. My colleague Jolene Price in the audience has those, and we encourage you to take a look at that. We really want to encourage everyone who wants to speak up to speak up. The city and the Water Rate Board should hear your input in this case. The Water Rate Board will make a decision on whether or not your rates should go up. So in this case, the Water Department is asking for $116 million more in rates. That would be phased in over 3 years, and if the request is approved, your bills would go up on average between $87 and $95 per year at the end of that rate increase. This represents an 11% increase, and one of the questions that we always think of for the public is how many of us can expect our incomes to go up by 11%. In this case, the rate increase should not be approved unless the Water Department can meet the constitutionally based legal standard that rates be just and reasonable. We're working with a team of experts who are examining the financial figures provided by the Water Department and the thousands of pages of assumptions the Water Department uses to calculate its request. And there are, as I mentioned, several large policy issues, which I'd like to just briefly mention to you. The first one is that the Water Department wants customers to start paying $8 million more per year for public fire protection service. That's water used by the fire department to fight fires, but it doesn't flow through your meter. It's not water that you may use, and in fact, it serves a public purpose good, not the purpose of delivering water to your homes. The Water Department also wants you to pay an additional $12 million per year to finance directly its construction projects, and those projects may benefit customers for years and decades to come, but they want that additional money through current customer rates. In addition, there's an issue, of course, about how much they're using the existing reserves to fund those types of projects, and we believe there's some advocacy there as well. Finally, the Water Department wants you to pay an additional $10 million on top of the $15 million already approved in rates each year for grants to commercial customers and developers who construct green stormwater infrastructure that helps keep stormwater out of the city's sewers. That's a substantial increase. We have concerns about whether customers should bear that increase at all, as well as in that magnitude all at once. At the same time, as Joanne mentioned, there's a new program called the Tiered Assistance Program to provide affordable water bills. That program began in July 2017 after the board approved it in the last rate proceeding. If you need assistance with your water bills and have not received affordable bills, that is a program that should be available to you, and you should let the board know whether or not you have heard about that program, whether you've had difficulty signing up or enrolling in that program, and whether you've had any other barriers to getting affordable water bills. Finally, we have some concerns about the way the department chooses its assumptions on what it needs you to pay. Its projections are always very conservative, and year after year we see that the department's projection of revenues are understated and its projection of expenses are overstated. That contributes to a large surplus of funds, approximately $200 million in reserves that the department has not spent despite its projections in the last rate case. So in other words, when the board approved rates in the last rate case, you paid more. And as we look at the department's financial condition right now, it's apparent that most of that money went right into the reserves. So we expect you may have some concerns about that fact. The board has the legal obligation to balance your interests against those of the water department in determining what rates are just and reasonable. So as public advocate, I'm here to encourage all of you to tell the board what your interests are. What are your concerns about this rate hike? So that the board can hear from you and so that we can hear from you as public advocate. Finally, we do believe this is an appropriate forum for you to raise other concerns you may have about the water department or the Water Revenue Bureau based on your experience. The city may not share our view on what the Water Rate Board can do about those concerns, but you are entitled by law to participate in an open and transparent public input process, and this is your opportunity to do so. So, one second. This is why it helps to have a podium. If you feel that the customer service you've been provided needs improvement, we believe you should say so. If you believe the water department hasn't been responsive or available when you've had issues, we believe you should say so. If you believe the water department does a great job at some things and a not so great job at other things, we also believe you should say so. So please come forward, provide your input, share your experiences so that they may be considered in this rate case. It's important for the hearing officer and the board to hear that there are many real-life people in our community for whom an 11% increase would be a real burden. So there are several additional public input hearings. They're listed on our flyer, so that information is available to you. There are also means to give public input by writing, and I would volunteer to speak with anyone who has concerns about doing that. If you have difficulty accessing the means to provide input in writing but wish to do so, please contact CLS directly and we can try to assist you with that process. I look forward to hearing all of your concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ballinger. At this point, Councilwoman Blackwell, are you? Would you like to have the floor?
Thank you. I want to thank you all for being here today. We have a public who's so worried, and they're worried about a rate increase, they're worried about a tax increase, and every time we go to community meetings, they ask us what we're going to support. So we wanted to come here. I thank you all for being here to get information on where we are and what direction you're trying to go in, and so we have better information about where we should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Sir.
A couple of notes before we take up public comment. We have a court reporter here, and so we're taking down everything that's being said. So a couple of points about that. Please spell your last name again when you come up, even if the handwriting tonight is very good. I commend you all. But sometimes we can't read it. And the other thing is that we would want to do this anyway, but we're bound by ordinance to take into account all of the comments. And one of my jobs as hearing officer is to collect all of the comments and categorize them so that I can report to the board what the comments are that are coming in. That includes email and your comments here. I should note, sending a comment to the water department won't guarantee that we will get it because we are separate from the water department. Let's see. I think that's it before we start. The first person, I'm just going to go down this list in the order the papers got to me. It's no particular order. I've got Mr. David Becker. And I gather if you come up to the podium, I don't know whether the red light is on, but that microphone should work.
Is this working? Yeah? First off, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dave Becker. Becker. Did that okay?
Yes, and your printing is beautiful, too.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So I live on the 100 block of Monroe Street. I've lived there for 5 years, and I've lived in the city for 30 years. My street is sinking due to water and erosion issues. You can barely drive down the street. It's cracking in so many places. The water department blames it on 12 broken laterals and says it's the responsibility of the homeowners. These 12 laterals represent almost 40% of the homes on our block, 40%. Yet they somehow all broke at the same time. Neighbors said this isn't right. The water department is ignoring their responsibility to fix our sinking street, which in turn is causing the broken laterals, so we got Councilman Squilla involved. The first water department employee I met was the foreman who came to our street to run tests, and she said, "The street is definitely sinking, but you're gonna have to sue us to get anything done." Over the next 6 months, I would interact with the chief water engineer, the general manager of public affairs, deputy water commissioner, and the water commissioner. And I can say with confidence that the foreman gave me the best advice. The first test by the water department revealed 2 lateral issues in the middle of the block, somehow sinking the entire street. We asked for the water department to reinvestigate. The chief water engineer came out to take a look, and he said, "Wow, I need to get out of the office more often." And then cited 4 more broken laterals, including my own. I literally felt bullied by the water department. Boreholes to look for voids were drilled on our street. They were left open for weeks, making the issues worse. When we complained, the boreholes were repaired. A day later, half the plugs fell through, letting water in again. From there, at Councilman Squilla's urging, the water department paid $10,000 for consultants to run ground-penetrating radar tests to explain the reason for our street sinking. The report could not show that laterals were the issue. In fact, the report showed most of the issues weren't even near laterals. When presented with this report, it was ignored by the deputy commissioner. She said, quote, "It never should have been done in the first place." Councilman Squilla has tried to help us. He said things like, quote, "This street has waited long enough," and quote, "I would support the city paying for these repairs." But the water department doesn't care. Their leadership team doesn't care. You can't even find a list of their leadership team on the website. When you try to look up any of them on LinkedIn, you won't find them. 40% of the laterals on our block are broken, and they don't care. So to me, it seems that they don't care about their customers, but they do care about money. If you look at their net position over the last 2 years, it's actually gone up by 14%. Yet they are asking for an additional raise of 11%. So from my perspective, water revenue is increasing, customer service is decreasing, yet the Philadelphia Water Department wants a raise. My recommendation, no new revenue until you fix the customer service issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I've got Cora Turpin.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm finding my glasses. I know that you are a part of the city of Philadelphia, and this is addressed in very general terms. I am Dr. Cora Turpin. I was a public school science teacher for the city of Philadelphia for over 30 years. I am a resident of Northern Liberties community. My voluntary services have included, but are not limited to, patrolling Philadelphia streets during the 70s riots with Crisis Intervention Network, picketing with State Representative W. Curtis Thomas to remove nuisance bars from the Northern Liberties Yorktown area, working with cleanup groups to clean the community, which was in 1977 a community in great disrepair with rags hanging out of buildings that had been abandoned. Helping to establish community gardens like the youth garden at 9th and Poplar, and working with Vivian Van Story on the west side of Broad Street to help mini gardens be established. Painting schools, gluing notices on water drainage outlets, that was one of your projects. And doing community person work in Northern Liberties for over 30 years. I say that because I am a representative of the elderly population of this city who has been working over the years to improve the city. It is unconscionable what the city of Philadelphia is doing to its elderly, who have settled the city and made it a desirable place to live. When I bought my home, it was about 5 years after you offered $5 if you stayed in the building for 5 years, and that was your residence. That's how bad off we were. I was also a resident at the time when gang violence was chasing people out of the city. In response to what the elderly have done to create the desirable city this is now, which I can tell because people are now moving into Northern Liberties in great numbers, the city has instituted the AVI that raised property taxes 5 and 10 times what they used to be. They gentrified neighborhoods with expensive homes and houses. And they've continued to increase the taxation on the homeowners in the older homes, while the new home developers get 10-year abatements. You've increased PICO rates. You've increased PGW rates. And now you want to increase water rates again. This is at a time when the elderly are on fixed incomes with high medical expenses that continue to escalate, and reduced investments in savings as a result of that 2008 recession that took monies from our retirement plans. The relief offered by the city is laughable. There is a $23,500 income ceiling for the property tax freeze in neighborhoods where homes are selling for over $500,000. There's only a $250,000 loop benefit exemption that's virtually meaningless in these high-cost neighborhoods. The income ceilings are so low for other benefits that if you had a decent job, you qualify only for a SEPTA pass. I'm one of these people who goes through all of these workshops that our elected officials have for seniors. And I pick up all this information and find that people who were middle income are eligible for nothing. That includes medical prescriptions. Now, the water department, I have learned, has eliminated their senior discount program. For all intents and purposes, for people of the middle class. It is on behalf of the elderly population of this city that I'm asking you to freeze the water increases for everyone over 70 years of age, regardless of income. And the reason why I say regardless of income is because, like me, some have been retired for 20, 25, and 30 years. All the expenses have gone up. We are struggling to maintain that standard of living that we worked so hard to achieve in our youth. And we are finding it impossible. Will you allow us to maintain some quality of our lives in the face of inflation, increased medical costs, maintaining taxed aged homes? See, we get no abatement, that need repair, and having to pay for services that we are no longer able to perform for ourselves. There is no affordable, safe place in this city for us to go. Please do not add another expense to an already struggling segment of your city population. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. I have a Mo Durbin.
Thank you. How is my handwriting? Not good? Okay.
I'm sorry. Oh, how's your handwriting? Right, exactly. The only thing that was a trouble for me was I couldn't tell whether it was M-O or M-A.
M-O.
Yeah, well, I got that now, but.
Yeah. And last name is Z-E-R-B-A-N.
Oh, Z-E-R, okay.
The writing was not very good, I think.
I don't want to insult people by using the wrong pronoun. Mr. Durbin, please.
Mr. Durbin, yep. So I have been a resident of Philadelphia. I've lived here for the last 6 years. I used to actually work at the water department previously as well. I no longer do. And it was a very interesting experience. But I see you guys have a Nestle water cooler over here yourselves, which is a very good idea. Lots of people drink bottled water right now, and it comes from a drastic fear of how contaminated the water could be in coming out of our tap. So, and also I'm the founder of Turn. It's a company here in Philadelphia that focuses on water as well, just for the reference. But fundamentally, I think one is the 10% increase that they propose over the next 3 years. This is a very high increase compared to any financial standard or economical standard, in a matter of fact. And compared with the current economical background, it's going to be an interesting how this all plays out. But I think, as mentioned earlier, this is going to be something of a great deal of hardship, I would say, to lots of people. And as the water commissioner would sometimes had mentioned to me personally, is that the water department aims to be more affordable, but this is quite opposite of that. But more importantly is I fundamentally think if there were to be a water increase, there needs to be a lot more data. The water department in itself not just reports very low amounts of data on anything, but they also stick fundamentally to only what they need to do with the EPA. That's something they've told us personally time and time again. Oh, we'll only do this if the EPA requires, or we only do this because the EPA says so. Fundamentally, I think the EPA is in high levels of fluctuation in terms of just rules and regulations, and I think something like water that people depend on their health should not be just based on that. So in many different ways, the water contaminations that are reported by the city, they're reported annually, they're not reported on how the water is actually in the homes, but more or less how the water is coming out of the plant, which is a very low a very inaccurate way of representing how the water quality is. Now, another thing is, lots of people have tested their water. Maybe some have had bad, some have had good, but fundamentally, when they go back to the water department tells them that they don't own the pipeline between the main and the curb, I think. That's not my business. I'm not very sure what it is exactly, but if that is what's bad and they don't really know what's bad, then what will be fixed? Things like microplastics and other contaminants that have had a widespread of presence, not just here, everywhere in the country. Again, they don't test for it. Why? I'm not very sure. I think the transparency of data is what's fundamental. I think both the users, they say the people is a big part, but if people were to be a big part, the people themselves need to get a good understanding of the levels of what their water is really like. And the public needs to better understand where these funds may or may not go to, and how things like contamination, how things like services do actually improve on the long run. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're coming close to the end. I've only got one more on the yes, I'd like to speak list, and that's Salima Ellis.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My last name is spelled E-L-L-I-S. And, excuse me. Good morning to everyone, and also our public. I just want to say, I've lived in Philadelphia for 56 years, and I too will be becoming a senior soon. And I am frightened because I have lost my job. I've cared for seniors. I've cared for children in this school district. Also, my main concern is how will this affect my children and grandchildren in the future? I am a homeowner in Mount Airy, and which I do love, and I care for my neighborhood. I was a co-block captain, but I'm presently not a co-block captain anymore, but I do take care of the concerns in my neighborhood. And also, excuse me, my main concern is, after watching what happened in Flint, my concern is about that. Because this rate hike is going up, I only have really my husband's income. And as far as the middle class, I don't see any, I don't see any assistance for the middle class. I could never get any assistance while raising my children. I couldn't hardly get any assistance as far as saving for retirement and struggling for my children to go to college or graduate. But my main concern is, I used to buy bottled water. I stopped buying bottled water because of pollution and contamination and bottles being thrown in our ocean, in our rivers, and our ponds. And I'm really concerned about, if this rate hike goes up, are we paying for the damages that, as far as the pipelines that are damaged every time we go through a season, a cold season or a brutal season of the weather? Are we paying for those damages as a customer? The customer service here, it really is bad. I even heard that as a radio announcer did speak when she moved here in Philadelphia, and she was saying how she was treated. Also, you can never get to their phone lines. I think that the payment plan that they have, when I try to address my situation in a hardship, I didn't think it would have benefited me, because my bill would have increased, and then I would have gotten a bill maybe from $60 a month or $70 a month to maybe $1,000, and then how would they let it get that far? and how would I be able to pay that back? Also, I just wish that they would be more concerned about how we work so hard to take care of our families, to stay in a city so that we will not have to move out of our neighborhoods, and to protect our neighborhoods, and to pay for our homes, and to live in our homes, and to live our legacy to pass it down to our children. And I see that my family are moving out of Philadelphia more than they are visiting Philadelphia. And I, excuse me, I love living in Philadelphia. I love the history that we have. And I just want the people to, sorry, I just want our law-abiding citizens and our politicians to care for us instead of just taking from us all the time. You guys work for us. We need you. We voted for you, and we need you. We got an election coming up now, and this has to stop. We're going down. We're not going up. Our education system is failing us. Our children are losing hope. And I just want y'all to care more for our citizens in Philadelphia. Bring them back home. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. That's all we have as far as people who have indicated that they would like to speak. But is there anybody else who would like to make a few comments or? Ma'am?
Can you please come to the table? No. We need it for the record.
This, unfortunately, it's very helpful for us to have you speak into the mic because it helps us get an accurate record.
My question, I'm Sandra Swenson. I was at the Free Library last Monday morning from 10 to 12. I think you may recall there were so few of us there, and it had rained that morning, and so the stalwarts that showed up we're very grateful for. I've also lived in the city of Philadelphia now for over 40 years, up at 17th and Green. And I was a block captain, and I still am a titular block captain in the sense that I don't need a title, but we all clean up, and we were all there this past weekend. And one of the biggest concerns we were talking about, besides all the trash on the street that we were cleaning up, was the water department's wanting to raise our water bills for the second time in what we believe is over 2 years. So when I was here, or up at the Free Library last Friday morning, my question was very simple. Raises, you say in your literature, are for the future. And you talk about the plants and the pipes and the reservoirs and the storm drainage control and management. And my question is, why haven't you considered a bond or grants? Now, I asked this question last Monday morning, and someone, it was indicated, would get back to me with an answer. And no one has. And so I came back down here today with the idea of maybe one of you might willingly contribute why this isn't a bond issue. Why is it always coming back to the taxpayer to pay more? That's my question.
Thank you, ma'am. I should explain that a lot of people have had some specific questions like this, and I'm going to invite the commissioner to come up and answer those factual questions so some of you can get an answer today. And then following that, if you want to let us know that you'd like us to explore. I should make it very clear, that's not our water bottle. We are not, I'm employed and I'm paid to do what I'm doing, but the other people on the board are not paid, and they are appointed by the mayor as separate from the water department. The whole point is so that the water department doesn't set its own rates. Somebody else has to look at it independently. So members of the public have been appointed, or people with expertise, to this board. I'm only saying that because we wouldn't be the ones who would consider the bond in the first instance, but we will consider whether or not the mix of pay-as-you-go and bonding that the department proposes is producing a just and reasonable rate. Does that make any sense?
No.
Okay. I can talk with you afterwards, but I'd like at this point to ask the commissioner to come up and go through some of these questions. I think
There's another
oh, there's another speaker. I'm sorry, Ms. McCarty.
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate the fact that you're telling me you don't have an answer today.
We don't.
Okay, where do I get the answer?
You'll get an answer from the perspective of the water department, from the commissioner of the water department. They have a proposal about how much should be paid out of current receipts and how much should be covered by bonding, okay? That proposal is actually before the board, so I can't tell you what the board is going to do. Mr. Ballinger, who spoke earlier, it sounded as if he might have a different opinion about that proposal of, how much is current revenues and how much is bonding. So he's going to present that to the board, and whether that changes or not, we won't know until July, because that's when this board makes its decision.
July. I think I'll be on vacation. Okay, but I'm glad to see that you'll be working. Thank you very much.
I apologize, I missed one more person, Cecile Timick? Am I pronouncing this wrong? Oh, okay. T. Mac, is that it? The T period Mac? Okay, thank you. Oh, I see, yeah.
Hello.
Good morning.
I'm a member of ESWA, the Eastern Service Workers Association, and they went to a couple of hearings this week already, and they still have some more to go to the 23rd. I'm not a really great speaker, but I'm just here in behalf of the poor people who have, are already struggling, with low income and all of that, and they have to pay these high rates, and we're told that the water bill is going to go up 11%, and that even at the water department is charging the fire department for using the water from the fire hydrants when there's a fire. So it's just, it's just not fair. So, I'm here on behalf of the people who are really struggling, and, we're paying for stuff that's, just not fair. And then they're saying that the water department, they have money, I guess in escrow or whatever, but they're not using it, and they're in the red, with their money that they have. So I don't know what we're paying for, something that money that should already be there, So, on behalf, if y'all can consider the people who really can't afford it, with these heights. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
CECILE. Mac, M-A-C-K.
Ma'am? I'm sorry, there was somebody behind you. Yeah, please, I'm sorry.
I didn't sign up, but.
And
I'm
could you
kinda
give us
nervous.
your name and spell it, please?
My name is Darlene Grace Carter, and I've been living in Philadelphia all my life. I'm married, and my husband and I have been living in Philadelphia, and we raised one son and two daughters. I'm here to represent Nicetown, Tioga, Philadelphia. That's where I live at.
Say
And
again, I'm not.
Nicetown, Philadelphia, Nicetown, Philadelphia. And this morning, I was talking to a neighbor, and I told him that what I might be doing because, I was going to come down here. And I worked it last night, even though I worked overnight and I haven't had any sleep. I said, I'm going to come down here and see, listen and see the conversation. And my neighbor said, well, I'm really shocked. I mean, I want to know about this tax abatement. Why that can't pay for this and can't pay for that? So I have a pamphlet here that was written by, what's his name? Excuse me. About the tax abatement. I think it's, let me get it together here, right here. Can't find it. It's a tax abatement written by Kevin, I think, Jillian. And on page 2, it says here, Philadelphia is currently realizing an additional $48.1 million in annual real estate tax revenue from properties with expired abatements. So I'd like to know, with that amount of money, and plus with the $200 million that Philadelphia Water Department supposedly have, how come they don't have enough money to do what they need to do rather than tax or increase the water bill for Philadelphia citizens? That's my main question. I think they have enough money to do what they have to do rather than increase the bills on the Philadelphia residents. That's my statement. I think.
Anybody? Is there anyone else who would like to speak? At this point, there are a couple of discrete questions that could be answered by the commissioner, if she would please come forward.
Yeah.
Sure.
Question?
Good morning again, and for those of you that walked in late, I do want to remind folks that there are folks over here that are happy to help you with any individual billing problems or any other issues you might have. We're here to assist today. So I want to remind, I heard a few comments about the senior citizens, and I'm very sympathetic to seniors struggling to afford their bills, and I want to make sure everyone knows that we do have a senior citizen discount, and really with our affordable rates program, we call TAP, customers only need to fill out one application, and then the Water Revenue Bureau figures out which is the best deal for you, so to speak, what's the best plan. So it might be the TAP, or it might be based on a senior citizen discount. And I should remind folks that currently the income level is $31,500, but that is being increased $800 to $32,300 for the senior citizen discount, which is 25% of your bill. The other things I heard were regarding, the affordable rates. If you are in TAP, please know that this rate increase will not affect you. TAP is based on your income. 0 to 50% is 2% of your income. 51 to 100% is 2.5% of your income. and 101 to 150% is 3% of your income. And so it's an income-based program, so the rate increase will not impact anyone that is in our TAP program. And if you're struggling to pay your bill, we urge you to apply for TAP, our Affordable Rates Program. Again, if you're a senior, you don't have to figure out which is the best for you. Just put it in and we'll figure that out for you. We'll identify the best program. Some of the other things I heard were about the quality of our water, and there was someone mentioned a concern about Flint. The department works very hard to get the best quality water to all of our customers throughout the city, and we actually meet the Safe Drinking Water Act standards as well as go above and beyond what is required. And in fact, we've joined what's called the Partnership for Safe Water, which is voluntary, but it causes us to treat to an even higher standard. So we take that very seriously, and we all drink the water, we all live in the city, and take great pride in the quality of water that we do provide to all of our customers. With the services, if you have a lead service, there's a loan to replace your service, a zero-interest 5-year loan to replace your lead service. When we do water main relays, which is we're trying to increase the number of miles as part of this rate increase, to increase the miles of main and sewer, actually, to be replaced. But if we come across a lead service line, we replace that lead service line at that time when we're replacing the public water main. Lastly, paying for damage. So I believe it was Ms. Ellis that mentioned paying for damages when the water mains break. That is also one of the things that we do through our claims process. So when a water main breaks, there's damage to property, that is something that we will cover through our claims process. And there are customer service issues are very, very important to us, and we recognize that there has been improvement needed. That's what, as Joanne mentioned, we merged the call centers. So it's one call center. But right now, today, we do know that there will be some challenges getting through, and we are working through those challenges and are working on continually improving that. It's not what we want it to be today. We know that. And then the bonds, we actually do sell bonds to fund our capital. We have $2 billion in outstanding bonds, and our capital budget hopes to be this coming year $353 million. We do not receive any federal grants. We do get loans, but those have an interest rate. But we would, our rates would be way much higher if we didn't fund our capital program through bonds. And the rate stabilization fund and the tax bills, it's important to note that the general fund, where taxes are collected for real estate, is separate and distinct from the water fund. So the water department, water fund does not receive any subsidies for the ratepayers from the general fund. They are two separate funds. And so all the money by city charter all the money that is collected for the water, sewer, and stormwater bills has to go back into operating and maintaining the infrastructure for the water department and paying for everything we do. And lastly, the Monroe Street issue. I have recently been in contact, or Mr. Becker has contacted me this past weekend, and there is a meeting set up with the councilman. His concern was the customer service, which, again, we always want to improve. But the department cannot pay for private laterals. That is not what we're allowed to do. And if that were to occur, if we were charged with doing that, it would be a larger rate increase. And so That is, I believe I touched on all the issues.
Commissioner, I have one question from the questions this morning. There was a gentleman who asked whether you test water that's coming into the home from the lateral and water that's coming out of the tap, and if not, why not?
So if, well, yes. If customers have concerns about their water, we try to troubleshoot what the problem might be. We do, as part of the lead and copper rule, test customers' water. Anybody that has a lead service line and wants to be a part of that program, we do test their water and in fact give them as an incentive, unless you're me, you can get a $50 off your water, sewer, and stormwater bill if you, for 1 month, if you participate in our lead and copper program. And we take the quality of our water very seriously. And if a customer outside of the lead and copper rule program has a concern, we have a lot of information on our website about lead and whether you can figure out, how you can figure out if it's a lead service. If you still can't figure it out, we will come out and help you identify that and test that water at the tap. And we do have monitoring throughout the system for water quality.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ma'am, do you have a question or comment?
My question is, what is the problem of basing your tax freeze on age rather than income? Because none of the programs that you have in effect that have an income ceiling is keeping up with inflation in this city. The cost is much greater. See, I keep hearing you talk about, you know, if you have so much, you're in this tier, this tier, and this tier. Everybody knows when you get on a fixed income, your buying power decreases. As you get older, it decreases. Your bills go up, and you keep basing it on income. Whatever your income, $23,000, $31,000, means nothing in the neighborhoods that they've gentrified, where the houses cost $500,000 to $250,000. It means nothing. And the people who are being pushed out are the elderly who were there in the first place.
I think that that's something that the board is, as far as it concerns water rates, I think the board is going to take up issues like that, and different positions are going to be presented. The board doesn't have anything to say about property taxes, so we can't help there.
I'll be there next.
Okay.
If I could add something as well. We have had many people do the service that the Commissioner just mentioned, but
You have to come up, please.
This is Mr. Durbin, and that was Ms. Mack before.
so the service the Commissioner just mentioned, lots of people have tried to do it. It's extremely ineffective. It's basically you submit like a complaint, and then they revise the complaint, and then they figure out whether it's worthy of their time or not. That's on one hand. And another thing, she had mentioned it independently, but they only test for lead and copper. Again, as mentioned, there's way more contaminants that affect the health of citizens in Philadelphia than just lead and copper. Thank you.
Thank you. This is, I very much appreciate the comments. I'm not going to let the Commissioner respond because we're starting to get into different points of view and arguments, and that's fair game, but we're here today to hear from the public what your concerns are. And the department has filed a lot of documentation, and I imagine they will try to touch on some of these issues if they don't think they've already touched on them. So I want to...
Well, I did not mean to imply that we only test for lead and copper.
No, that's not... What he's saying is, I think, that you don't test for plastic particulates.
And other things that are not available as people think.
And other things that are not available...
On the complaints from customers.
Oh, I think what he's saying is other things that are not covered on the program that has been referenced about lead and copper. we have any other comments? I just want to remind folks, even for us, well, not for us, it's not a hard concept, the board is independent of the water department. So the water department has made its proposal for what rates ought to be. The public advocate is going to put forward its proposal for what should be done with that request. There will be technical hearings to go through the accounting, and then the board will deliberate. I will make a report to the board, but the board itself makes the decision ultimately. And we take very seriously what people have said. One of my jobs, I think I may have mentioned, is to collate all the public comments, so to give the board a feel for the direction and intensity of public feeling. And with that, we may close the hearing. Thank you.